It's Thursday, the 25th of July. My name's Juan Brown. You're watching the Blanco Lirio channel, and we have an important update on the Park Fire, the largest wildfire in California that has exploded to over 71,000 acres. It exploded 45,000 acres alone during the night last night. Very unusual to see that much growth in a fire overnight. Let's check it out. Here's what we know so far. Here on watch duty, where you can see so much of the West on fire this fire season, the Park Fire started last night just outside of the population of Chico, California, here at Bidwell Park, thus the name the Park Fire, when apparently somebody had a problem with their car and got apparently angry with the car and literally pitched the car or rolled the car or allowed the car to roll off of the road here, tumble down this embankment and start this fire right down here in this location off of Big Chico Creek in the Bidwell Park area. We'll show you some KCRA TV footage of that here in a minute. Looking here on Google Maps, the fire is already 10 miles wide and over 23 miles long from south to north. So down here at the source of the fire, this is the heel of the fire. Up here at the top of the north end, this would be the head of the fire. Over here on the right-hand side would be the right flank of the fire, and over here on the left-hand side is the left flank of the fire. And right now, most of the air tanker activity is happening here on the right flank of the fire. Let's take a look. Tanker 104, the Erickson MD-80, and lead 47. So they've got the lead plane out of Redding. Yeah, so here's how the air attack's been going. This is the lead aircraft. This is the job I was training to do with the U.S. Forest Service back years ago when they were flying King Airs. I was based out of Redding at the time. But the lead is the aircraft that leads the heavy air tankers in on the drops. And on a big complicated fire like this, they got to decide where is the most effective place to put the retardant. So you can see earlier this afternoon, they were working this ridge line just to the north of Cohasset, between Cohasset and Highway 32. So they're trying to secure the right flank of the fire and keep it only 10 miles wide as it marches to the north. But now it looks like maybe that's gotten smoked out this afternoon. They're unable to work up there anymore. I don't know if they're giving up all the work that they've done up there and it's going to be overrun. So they're back down here towards the heel of the fire where the fire began. This is concerning. If this starts slopping over here at the heel of the fire, that's what's going to threaten the areas of Magalia potentially. Of course, it's got to cross this giant ravine here, Butte Creek, before it can begin to threaten this area over here. So lead 47 and that must be one of the intel ships, is working with tanker 104. So now they're going to put tanker 104 in a quarter-mile trail formation with the lead aircraft. Let's switch over to the 3D view briefly here on Flight Radar 24. Yeah, there's, what's that, Highway 32 right there. They're crossing. 2,000 foot per minute rate of descent. Okay, 192, 1,300 feet. Wow, they are right down on it. That is some low country. Okay, there goes the drop right there. And they're going to start climbing out of there. All right, so let's back up and see where that drop is located. Wow. Way down in there? Really? Okay. So Upper Bidwell Park, thus the name of the fire, the Park Fire. This is near the origin of the fire. They're working. Earlier today, helicopter KCRA-3 helicopter caught some of the air tanker action up higher towards Cohasset. Here's the lead plane on the left. Here's the heavy air tanker, the DC-10 air tanker on a left base entry for a drop, and you can see how this lead plane action works. Let me turn me off there so you can actually see. There you go. There's the DC-10 air tanker on left base entry. So they're pre-treating a ridge well off to the right flank of the fire earlier today. There's the lead plane down real low, 150 feet over the terrain, right at blue line. That tanker's flying way too high over the top of them. I hate that. Maybe we can't see it from this angle, but as a lead plane pilot, I just hate it when the tanker crowds you from above. It leaves you no way out in the lead plane. And now the video's stalling. Let's see if we can get it to go again. The DC-10 is working his way down behind the lead plane. The lead plane's blowing smoke right there. That's where he wants the retardant dropped. The KC-10 is coming in for the drop. He's looking at the smoke from the lead plane. Timing, and drop. Pre-treating this ridge right before the heavy timber just outside of Cohasset. And if the camera pulls out a little bit, we'll be able to see the big picture of where they're out on the fire. The fire is off to the left side of our screen. There's the fire right there. So they're treating the timber in advance of the fire in an effort to retard the spread of the fire. Now the KC-10 is doing his climb out, and of course he's working downhill in relatively clear air on the right flank of the fire. Now we can see the other heavy air tanker orbiting here. There's the lead plane again. So the DC-10 is leaving the fire. The lead plane is just continuing to orbit and work, as we saw on the Flight Radar 24, and just picks up air tanker after air tanker like a forward air controller and brings those guys into the fire, and they're going to extend that line that this tanker already dropped. Here's another section of the right flank of the fire. You can see a good dozer line already cut on this ridge top. A lot of these ridge tops are already set up with containment lines, and there is the massive size of the column blooming earlier today on the Park fire. Again, looking at the right flank of the fire. Lead bringing in another DC-10 airdrop. Again, this is all from KCRA-3, Sacramento, Livecopter 3. Yeah, keep that lead plane in view there. Let's see if he drops a little smoke. There we go. Start here, he's saying on the radio. And bam, air tanker's right on it. Again, 150 feet above the top of the vegetation. And about, well, that air tanker's going along a little faster, probably closer to 150 knots or so for that air tanker. Again, pre-treating that ridge prior to this heavy timber on the right flank of the fire. Just keep extending that line. And that's why the retardant's pink, so the pilots can see it from the air. Here's a closer view of the fire activity. It's getting into a bit more timber, a bit less of the grasslands, but still dry, flashy fuels. Wind driven. Winds out of the south about 11 knots or more. An overall view of the length of the fire, 23 miles long, and the huge column being put up at the head of the fire earlier this afternoon. Here gives a perspective of just how tiny the air tanker activity is. That's the giant DC-10 air tanker in scale to the overall size of the fire. Correction, that's one of the S2 air tankers, one of the smaller air tankers. So he can get down there and connect some of the lines together if there's any gaps in the lines. Maybe this aerial activity will help. Maybe it'll be completely overrun. All they can do is try to corral the fire at these points. This is where the air attack officers have come to agreement on to decide to defend against this fire. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. Once the fire is this big, it's a 50-50 chance as to whether it'll work or not. Here's a good example of the steep, rugged terrain in this Ishi country, this black lava rock, cliff faces outside of these different canyons, creek canyons. It's just impossible to get down there and work it. You got to let the fire come up to the top of the ridge and attack it there. Here we can see some retardant that didn't work, and here we can see some retardant that did work. Just a very little section right there did not get burned through. And this is near down where the source of the fire is. The source of the fire was not these power lines. It's this vehicle. The man has been captured and arrested. Right there, there's the perpetrator's vehicle that started this fire. This car apparently blew up on him. He got mad and he tossed it, let it roll off, intentionally rolled it off the side of the roadway down into this embankment off the road, and initiated this entire 75,000 acre plus wildfire at this point. And this is located right underneath the power line. So this fire apparently was not started by the power lines, which is so common in this country. It's just ironic that he rolled the car right out underneath these power lines. And that's the origin of the fire, right next to the creek there. Now let's take a look at some of the live video camera action from Alert, California. This is the Flea Mountain camera located on Flea Mountain up here by Howard's Place at Rag Dump, California. This is right on the edge of the big fire that blew through Paradise so many years ago. We're looking to the west at the fire, and let's rewind it here about an hour and watch this fire activity spread out along that whole 23-mile length and moving strong from south to north, from left to right. Here on Alert, California, they've got a lot of different views. Let's take a look at Bald Mountain. That's the current live view at about 4 o'clock this afternoon. Do a 1-hour replay. Bald Mountain up here in the taller timber, looking a little bit south and west. And look at that column beginning to bloom up there this afternoon. We've not quite seen any pyrocumulus clouds just yet out of this fire activity. Cohasset Hill, 1-hour playback. Looking a little more to the south, this fire is heading right towards this camera. So this is the taller timber around the Cohasset area. This fire was able to move very quickly overnight through light, flashy grasslands. The Deer Creek Highway camera looking to the north from the valley, looking up at the higher terrain. Winds blowing from south to north. Here on Facebook, Orville News Live did capture one of these cameras got completely overran by the wildfire. And I can't see which camera that was. The current view on Zoom Earth, showing the fire starting just outside of Chico. So the winds aloft driving those winds to the northeast. Let's go back to yesterday and see if we can see the start of this fire from the satellite view. There it goes. At about 4:30 or so in the afternoon, it pops right there and then burns all night, growing 40,000 acres overnight, and then going again today up to 71,000 acres. The wind situation that's driving the fire right now is the typical onshore breeze coming in through the Delta area from the Bay Area into the Sacramento Valley, and then the wind split, the surface wind split left and right, north and south around the Sacramento area. And as you head up further north to where the fire is located, we've got 12 knots of wind or so on the surface. And as you go up in altitude, those winds change more to a west to easterly direction. And here you can see the direction of the winds following exactly what we're seeing on the satellite view. And that smoke from this fire is already all the way into Idaho. And the folks that are flying in the backcountry of Idaho today are already beginning to complain about all the smoke. And then, of course, we've got all the fires here in eastern Oregon adding to that smoke up in Idaho and Montana and beyond. So if we go from the satellite view to the prog chart, we can see this low pressure area up here in Canada is helping to produce this onshore flow of wind, which ironically gives us crystal clear skies here at the Blanco Lirio Global World Headquarters, which is only about 30 air miles or so away from this fire. And this fire, of course, is heading away from us. So we're just now getting to the most dangerous part of fire season here, July, August, September. We've had record heat here in Northern California, record number of days above 100 degrees, which has completely dried out the vegetation. We've had a nice wet winter and spring, but now we're in a very dangerous fire season situation for Northern California. There is already a rather large TFR over the fire area. Temporary flight restriction. No flying in the area of the park fire. These dry, grassy California foothills with our hot Mediterranean summers are designed to burn. And if we look at this fire history map from Cap Radio, the area that's burning, much of the area that's burning now outside of Chico, here's the Chico town, here's the Chico airport. Much of this hasn't burned in years, and unfortunately is a natural part of the process. Just to the east of the fire, here was that deadly campfire that burned down the towns of Concow and Paradise. And here in the area of the Blanco Lirio Global World headquarters of Grass Valley, Nevada City, California, the last big fire we had was the 49er fire back in 1988. And we represent a large area that has not previously burned in the last 100 years or so. Back at the air show here on Flight Radar 24, looks like they're back working the Highway 32 Ridge area. Tanker 88, one of our S2s, Tanker 95, looks like they're loading and returning out of Chico. Tanker 102 coming in and out of Chico as well. The Mad Dog heading back up into the area. And some of the larger air tankers operating out of either Chico or McClellan down in Sacramento. So that's your park fire update. Over 71,000 acres at this time and continuing to blow and go. Heed your evacuation warnings. You need to know your evacuation warning area by these individual numbers. Pay attention to this fire. Get out of its way. Thank you so much for your support of this channel, especially the folks over on Patreon that make this content possible. See you here.